about the dirty night cars. Earth does break the things that we make, like model plates and cupcakes. I can clear the leaves from here. They're too far under the garage this year. I can clear the leaves from here. They're too far under the garage this year. Let them be buried alive in their suits, in their ties. Trees get shake the moves that they made in their suits, in their ties. Let them be buried alive in their suits. dirt-free. Up the stairs, come find me. Come sneak up behind me. I'll be sleeping soundly. Why, baby?
How it all began, if truth be told, had a master plan. Now I rule the world, took them by surprise, worked my way uphill. They looked into my eyes, I became invincible. No one can stop me, for only I am in control. If you want me, you better contact my people. In my crown, I am king. I love their endless worshipping. I am raw, a dinosaur, but I will never be extinct. So don't mess with me. I'll shoot you down. Don't mess with me. Show me sex appeal. Get on your hands and knees. Forget about the meal. It's best to keep me pleased. Imagine, if you will, I'll meet on the block. I've got time to kill, so how about a quick fuck? I've come, it's been fun, but won't you please disappear? Something tells me that you can't further my career. In my crown, I am king. I love their endless worshipping. I am raw, a dinosaur, but I will never be extinct. So don't mess with me. I'll shoot you down. Don't mess with me. 'Cause all your heads are gonna roll. I've made your misery my goal. So if you want survival, kneel on my arrival. But this is how I rule the world. No one can stop me, for only I am in control. And if you want me, you better contact my people. See my crown, I am king. You'll love the endless worshipping. I am raw, a dinosaur, but I will never be extinct. So don't mess with me. I'll shoot you down. Don't mess with me. I'll knock you down. Don't mess with me. I'll shoot you down. Don't mess with me.
is too busy and death's a bit too much. They call on me by name, you see, for my special touch. To the gentlemen, I'm misfortune. To the ladies, I'm surprise. But call me by any name, anyway, it's all the same. I'm the fly in your soup, I'm the pedal in your shoe, I'm the bee beneath your bed, I'm the bump on every head, I'm the peel on which you slip, I'm the pin in every head, I'm the thorn in your side, makes you wriggle and ride. And it's so easy when you're evil. This is the life you see, the devil tips his hat to me. I do it all because I'm evil, and I do it all for free. Your tears are all the pay I'll ever need. Children to make sad, while there's candy to be had, while there's pockets left to pick, while there's grannies left to trip down the stairs, I'll be there. I'll be waiting round the corner. It's a game, I'm glad I'm in it, 'cause there's one born every minute. And it's so easy when you're evil. This is the life you see, the devil tips his hat to me. I do it all because I'm evil, and I do it all for free. Your tears are all the pay I'll ever need. I pledge my allegiance to all things dark, and I promise on my damned soul to do as I am told. Lord Bill's above has never seen a soldier quite like me. Not only does his job, but does it happily. I'm the fear that keeps you awake, I'm the shadows on the wall, I'm the monsters they become, I'm the nightmare in your skull, I'm a dagger in your back, an extra turn upon the rack, I'm the quivering of your heart, a stabbing pain, a sudden start. And it's so easy when you're evil. This is the life you see, the devil tips his hat to me. I do it all because I'm evil, and I do it all for free. Your tears are all the pay I'll ever need, and I do it all for free. Your tears are all the pay I'll ever need, and I do it all for free. Your tears are all the pay I'll ever need. It gets so lonely being evil. What I do to see a smile, even for a little while, and no one loves you when you're evil. I'm lying through my teeth. Your tears are all the company I need.
Sit down, quiet down, listen up. I brought you all here to recite the annual obituaries. Like every year, we'll start with A and we'll end with Z. Alright, is the band ready? Alright, hit it, boys. Craig, who died in the womb.
at least as twisted and mean as thee. For your eyes, what a curious sight. Your children have turned on you, and you say you don't sleep well at night. Well, we'll take care of that for you. Marie Antoinette loved the pearls, they'll make a great tourniquet. Never did as you should, and you claimed it was off for our very own good. 'Twas a lie, a magnificent lie. Now your subjects have turned on you, and you claim you had lots on your mind. Well, we'll take care of that for you. Get that damn thing off the neck. I'm the head of the board, now I'm bored of her head. Sharpen up the blade, boys, what are you waiting for? Here's where we all get ahead. Wipe that damn smile off your face, or we'll lop it off clean with our new guillotine. Sharpen up the blade, boys, what are you waiting for? Here's where we all get ahead. Stems from this thing that you call a brain. Be my guest, sever me from the source of all my agony. What a shame, I've forgotten my name. Without the use of my brain and my bed, I'll sleep well tonight. Without this head of mine, get this damn thing off my neck. I'm the head of the board, now I'm bored of my head. Sharpen up the blade, boys, what are you waiting for? Here's where we all get ahead. Wipe that damn smile off your face, or we'll lop it off clean with our new guillotine. Sharpen up the blade, boys, bells are now tolling, soon heads will be rolling. Please, sir, for me, sir, won't you see me, see, sir? Dear, I dread, I seem to have lost my head. I think I left it about, it fell to the ground and I kicked it around. Has anyone seen? No need to be mean, my bloody fat ugly head. Please, miss, for me, sis, won't you see me, see, sis? It's got black hair and it's kicking about in the square. I'm really not totally sure, but I think that it might have rolled into the store. Has anyone seen? No need to be mean, my bloody fat ugly head. What did I ever do to you that you should treat me this way? Is it really such a crime for an angel to speak his mind? In time I'll try to shed some light. If I were a big boy, I wouldn't cry. But since I'm not a big boy, I have to cry. What did I ever do so wrong that you should cast me from grace? Though I love to rule in hell here, how I miss the taste of heaven, its soft and cool embrace. If I were a big boy, I wouldn't cry. But since I'm not a big boy, I'll have to close my eyes and picture what it's like. I'm just like you, made by he, despised by they. I'm almost me, I'm nearly human. Look at me, I'm almost a human being. I'm just like you, made by he, despised by they. I'm almost me, I'm nearly human. Pity me, I'm almost a human being. Remember your light, and it was stirring me thinks the white man is Satan. God, they know what God thinks. God thinks we should all convert to Judaism. God thinks we must all be Christians. And God thinks we should all embrace Islam. God thinks the only true religion is Hinduism. And I know what God thinks. God thinks you're a waste of flesh. Oh, God prefers an atheist. Oh, God thinks all people like UFO. God thinks all people like you are an embarrassment to creation. Self-righteous, judgmental, first to throw a stone, and using his name for your own protection. God thinks the sun revolves around the earth. God thinks there was something very wrong with Copernicus. God thinks abortion is murder, and God thinks everything that science gave us is wrong. God thinks women deserve it. God thinks AIDS is a form of punishment. I hate people who blame the devil for their own shortcomings, and I hate people who thank God when things go right. And I know what God thinks. God thinks you're an idiot. Oh, God prefers a heretic. Oh, God thinks all people like UFO. God thinks all people like you are an embarrassment to creation. Self-righteous, judgmental, first to throw the stone, and you're using his name for your own agenda. Democrat, God wants you to vote Republican. Never trust a man who puts his words in the mouth of God and says it's absolute truth, it's lies, and it smells like death. It's all in a day's work, taking money from the poor. Why do you think that God would need your dirty money if you want to start a holy war? Self-righteous, judgmental, first to throw a stone, using his name for your own protection. God thinks puppies need to die, and God thinks babies need to drown, 'cause God is neither good nor bad. God is you and me. God is everything.
Sit down, quiet down, listen up. I brought you all here to recite the annual obituaries. Like every year, we'll start with A and we'll end with Z. Alright, is the band ready? Alright, hit it, boys. Disease of the brain. D is for Daniel Durrell on a train. E is for Eric who's buried alive. M is for Frank who was stabbed through the eye. G is for Craig who died in the womb. H is for Heather who was sealed in a tomb. One by one we might possess to keep the money making to us.
was a curse. I ain't been the nurse, oh, but I love the worst. I deserve to be so immersed. Dried up and laid in a hearse. When I was two, I poured through my glue into my father's hair as he sat unaware in his armchair. Much to his dismay, had to cut it all away. Oh, but it felt great. I deserve to be cut and filleted and tossed about in disarray until the pieces melt away. I am not a bad man, even though I do bad things, very bad things, such horrible things. But it's not what it seems. It seems not quite what I seem. Ah, hell, that's exactly what it seems. When I was four, I'd wait by the door with a knife in my hand and a musty piece of blood. It would be quite grand if the mouth out grew swat, the sharp edge you got. Oh, but I love the fun. I deserve to be tied in a knot, broken bones and blood dots. When I was 6, I used to trick my next door neighbor's son in the woods. We would run, play for fun, hide and seek has a cost. It would be forever lost. Oh, but I love your scar. I deserve to have my head lopped off. Hitting it. Oh, but I love your scar. I deserve to have my head lopped off. Hitting and covered in moss until this memory's forgot. I am not a bad man, even though I do bad things, very bad things, such horrible things. But it's not what it seems. It seems not quite what I seem. Ah, hell, it's exactly what it seems. When I was 8, I used to hate the color of my house. It was quiet as a mouse. I burned it down to the ground when no one was around. Oh, but I love the sound. I deserve to be quickly put down, rotting 6 feet underground. When I was 10, I used to pretend to drown. Never say it till they come and rescue me, then proceed to laugh in their face. Such a disgrace. Oh, but I love the taste. I deserve to have my praises placed all over the fireplace until this life has been erased. I am not a bad man, even though I do bad things, very bad things, such horrible things. But it's not what it seems. It seems not quite what I seem. Ah, hell, it's exactly what it seems. When I was 12, I used to delve into evil schemes just to release the screams, push my self-esteem, push my sister down a well. She just fell, oh, but I loved it well. I deserve to rust deep down and out where no one can hear me yell. When I was 14, nothing much happened. Well, there was that one time.
And none of the king's horses and none of the king's men could pull him back up to be used again. Children often sing the cute nursery rhymes they learn, but nowadays the true meaning behind them gets lost. Here's my top 10 dark nursery rhymes and what they really mean. Number 10. Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, and Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't but Humpty together again. Nowhere in the rhyme did they say Humpty Dumpty was an egg. I would love to leave it like that, but digging deeper, it actually is believed that Humpty Dumpty was a large cannon used in the English Civil War. It was placed high on a wall, but when that wall was damaged, Humpty fell, and none of the king's horses and none of the king's men could pull him back up to be used again, because of how large and heavy he was. Number 9. 3 blind mice. 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. See how they run, see how they run. They all ran after the farmer's wife, who cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a thing in your life as 3 blind mice? The 3 blind mice were actually 3 noblemen in the 1500s, back when there was a queen known as Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary was strictly Catholic and would do everything in her power to execute and punish anyone who did not convert to Catholicism. These mice were plotting against the queen, and thus were punished. But they were not dismembered, nor even blinded as the rhyme goes, but they were burnt at the stake for their crimes against the crown. Number 8. Mary, Mary, quite contrary. Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells, and pretty maids all in a row. Again, Queen Bloody Mary Tudor, known for killing and punishing Protestants. In this rhyme, her garden refers to her ever-growing graveyards of Protestant martyrs. The silver bells and cockle shells are instruments of torture she would have used upon them before they would actually be killed. Silver bells were thumbscrews used to crush the victim's thumbs between a hard surface, screwing it down tighter and tighter until it was nothing. The cockle shells were attached to the genitalia. The maids in this rhyme doesn't refer to actual maids, but the guillotine, which was nicknamed the Maiden and shortened to the Maid. Did you know the original guillotine didn't actually work as quickly as the movies make it out, and that it could take up to 11 strikes before the head would actually separate from the body? Number 7. Peter, Peter, Pumpkin Eater. Peter, Peter, Pumpkin Eater had a wife and couldn't keep her. He put her in a pumpkin shell, and there he kept her very well. When you first hear this, you simply think that he just hides his wife in a pumpkin shell. But looking into the words more carefully, Peter's wife was a loose woman. He couldn't keep her, so he killed her and placed her into a pumpkin shell, and there he kept her, never to run off again. Number 6. Rain, rain, go away. Rain, rain, go away. Come again another day. Little Johnny wants to play. Rain, rain, go to Spain. Never show your face again. Today's version has the ending going, come again another day. But the reason the original has go to Spain, never show your face again, is because the stormy weather helped the English defeat the Spanish Armada. The English were doomed to fail with their smaller army, but during that storm, only 10,000 men of their whole Spanish Armada made it back to Spain. Number 5. Ring Around the Rosy. This is a very simple nursery rhyme. Ring around the rosy, a pocket full of posies, ashes, ashes, we all fall down. The Black Death brought clear symptoms, a rosy red rash in the shape of a ring, and when you caught it, you reeked of death. So one would put herbs, flowers, posies in your pockets to keep the smell away. And when it finally caught you, ashes. You were cremated the best they could during that time. We all fall down. No one survived. It was a guaranteed death sentence. Number 4. Bar Bar Black Sheep. Bar Bar Black Sheep, have you any wool? Yes sir, 3 bags full. 1 for the master, 1 for the dame, and 1 for the little boy who lives down the lane. The line, and 1 for the little boy who lives down the lane, originally ended as, and none for the little boy who cries down the lane. Now this one is cute, and one may think that everything is well, but actually it's about the rising taxes in the 13th century, and how it was being split. 1/3 went to the crown, another to the church, and then the rest for the farmer. But for the shepherd boy, he got nothing. And as for the black sheep, back then, black sheeps were bad luck and useless because their wool could not be dyed. Number 3. Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. Up got Jack, and home did trot, as fast as he could caper. He went to bed and bound his head with vinegar and brown paper. This one has some speculation. It has been connected with the beheadings of King Louis XVI of France, who lost his crown, Jack. And once after, Jill, his queen, Marie Antoinette, came tumbling soon after him, though their ending was changed to please the children and keep such a horrible fate from them. Number 2. Ladybird, ladybird, fly away home. Ladybird, ladybird, fly away home. Your house is on fire and your children are gone. All except for one called Anne, for she has crept under the frying pan. Ladybird, also known as ladybugs, is a Catholic in the 16th century England, when it was a Protestant country. Catholics were forced to attend Protestant masses and were not allowed to practice their own faith, or they were charged hefty fines. They would have to meet in secret, often outdoors in fields. This is also where the ladybirds were often found. The fire refers to the priests who were burned at the stakes for not giving up their faith. And number 1. Goosey, goosey gander. Goosey, goosey gander, whither dost thou wander? Upstairs and downstairs, and here in the lady's chamber. There I met an old man, who would say his prayers. I took him by the leg, and threw him down the stairs. This refers to the time when Catholic priests would have to stay in hiding. when families would harbour them, they would be taking a huge risk in doing so. If they were caught reciting their prayers in anything but English, which was the Protestant way, they were persecuted. As in Catholicism, prayers are recited in Latin. So there you have it. Most nursery rhymes that date far back, if not all of them, seem to carry a dark part of history with them. And if there are any more that I missed that you'd like to add, let me know in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching and goodbye. Throughout the years, many fairy tales that we tell today have changed drastically since their first tellings. But what not many people know is how dark the original tales were. Here are 10 of the most disturbing dark origins of today's fairy tales. Number 10. The Little Mermaid. In the original tale, the prince falls in love with another princess instead of the Little Mermaid, and she turns the sea foam. But the reason for this is because he doesn't realise that the Little Mermaid is the woman who saved him from his shipwreck. She gives up her voice to get human legs in order to have him fall in love and marry her, but when he announces and finally meets his bride-to-be, he thinks she is the one who saves him from his near-death moment, and is completely in love with her. This breaks the mermaid's heart. In attempts to save their sister, the mermaid's sisters cut off all their hair and gave it to the sea witch in return for a magic knife. The Little Mermaid needed to kill the prince and have his blood drip onto her feet so she could grow back her tail that night and swim back into the ocean. She did not, however, and thus turned to sea foam. Number 9. Cinderella. In the original story of Cinderella, her two stepsisters are desperate to be the prince's bride, but the glass slipper that Cinderella leaves at the ball is made only to fit Cinderella's foot. So, when the prince arrives at the house, the elder stepsister's big toe will not fit, and her mother hands her a knife to cut off the big toe, telling her that when she is queen, there will be no need to go anywhere on foot. When the prince takes her away, he realizes there's blood gushing from her foot, and returns, and it's the second sister's turn, and she can get her toes in but not her heel. So the mother, once again, gives her a knife and tells her to cut it off, saying the same as before. He is tricked once more, only to return the sister again. Finally, Cinderella is brought out from the kitchen and is fitted with her golden shoe and is taken away. Number 8. Snow White. Looking glass on the wall, who in the land is the fairest of all? In the classic Snow White, the evil queen is essentially Snow White's stepmother, and she doesn't want to kill Snow White until the looking glass tells her that she is no longer the fairest in all the land. So, after the huntsman fails to kill Snow White and the looking glass tells her that Snow is hiding out with 7 dwarfs, the evil queen tricks Snow into nearly killing herself 3 times. The first was by lacing her bodice too tightly. The second was by combing her hair with a poisoned brush. And finally, the third one is with the poisoned apple. Each time, dwarves have to find her to save her from her near death, except for the last one. That is when Prince Charming comes out of the woods and asks to take her beautiful casket made out of glass and wood, because he had fallen in love with her dead body. Not even joking on that one. No true love kiss, but his people drop the casket, dislodging the piece of apple stuck in Snow White's throat, and she comes back to life to marry the prince. In the end, the evil queen goes to the marriage and is forced to wear iron shoes that were placed in the fire and dance until she dies. Number 7. Rapunzel. In one rendition of the classic tale of the long-haired girl, she is not a princess. A child of 2 people who longed and longed to have a child but could not. These people lived next door to an enchantress, and this enchantress's garden was this rampion, which is a type of vegetable that Rapunzel gets her name from. Her father steals the root from the enchantress's garden for his wife because she so desperately wanted it. The enchantress was angry to find this out, and in the end told them that she would take their first child as payment for the vegetable. Up the tower is where Rapunzel lived when her prince found her and would visit her frequently. They fell in love, but Rapunzel didn't know how to get down, so they made a plan to make a silk rope. Rapunzel let it slip that the prince weighed less than the enchantress, so she cut off Rapunzel's long braids and sent her away to the desert. When the prince came up with a ladder, he found the enchantress, and before she could do anything to him, he jumped from the tower. He managed to survive but was blinded because he landed in thorns. He wandered into the same desert where Rapunzel was and found that she had twins. When Rapunzel cried into his eyes, he was able to see once more, and they were able to travel back to his kingdom with the two kids. Number 6. Sleeping Beauty. In the older tale of Sleeping Beauty, the princess is said to have her finger pricked by a spindle and die on her 15th birthday, all because Maleficent didn't get an invite to the party. But what you might not have known was that the prince didn't just kiss her awake. Instead, he fell so helplessly in love with her comatose body that he then decided to have his way with her, asleep or not, and that in turn caused her to become pregnant with, again, twins. They must have loved the idea of twins back then. This, of course, is while she is still asleep, and it's not until one of the babies, while looking for a breast for milk, sucks on her finger, awakens the princess, dislodging the piece of flax fibre that she had pricked her finger on. Number 5. Little Red Riding Hood. In the very oldest version of Little Red Riding Hood, there was no huntsman to save the day. He was only added in later to make a happy ending. That being said, there are still more gritty details to the story, like how the wolf actually dissects the grandmother, wears her skin and makes Little Red eat part of her own grandmother. But another version is that he just eats her and her grandmother, and this is where the huntsman comes in and saves them. Thank God he was created, and that the wolf didn't need to chew either woman. Number 4. Hansel and Gretel. The story that we all know is pretty gruesome enough, about two kids lost in the woods who find a witch's house. Then the witch tries to eat them, and in turn they shove her into a stove and run away. Well, in the French original, The Lost Children, their parents didn't actually want them because they were greedy, and have to decide to lose their own children in the forest. They find a red house, and a woman there lets them both in, but tells them they need to be quiet or else her husband will eat them. It ends up that her husband is the devil and found the children. He builds a sawhorse to bleed the children on, but they pretended not to know how to get on it. So when the devil's wife got in it, the boy slits her throat and took the devil's money and ran. They crossed the river, which the devil couldn't do, and went back home to take care of their parents despite them leaving them in the woods to die. Number 3. Three Little Pigs. In this well-known classic, the three little pigs build their houses out of various materials: straw, stick and brick. We all know that it ends up with a brick house that stands up to the big bad wolves "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow the house down" line. And in the classic story, we know he opts for going down the chimney and burns his butt and runs out of the doors and is never to be seen again. But in the original story, the final pig decides that's not gonna be enough. Instead, when the wolf decides to come down the chimney, he has a pot of boiling water waiting for him, and once the wolf is inside of it, he shuts the lid and cooks the wolf. Once dead, they all eat him. Number 2. The Pied Piper. In the original tale of the Pied Piper, there was a village overrun with rats. A man arrives dressed in the clothes of a pied and offers to rid the town of the vermin. The villagers agree to pay a vast sum of money if the Pied Piper can do so, and he does. He plays music on his pipe which draws out all the rats, and when he returns for the payment, the villagers won't cough up, so the Pied Piper decides to rid the town of children as well. In most modern variants, the Pied Piper draws the children to a cave, where the townsfolk finally agree to pay up. Then he sends them back. In the original, however, the Pied Piper leads the children to a river where they all drown, except for a lame boy who couldn't keep up. Number 1. Beauty and the Beast. The original tale is titled Little Broomstick. In the original story, Belle has 2 older, spoiled sisters and a father whom is a merchant. On one of his trips, he asks his daughters what they would like from his trip. The older siblings ask for a necklace and earrings, while Belle simply asks for nothing. But as her father insists, she asks for 3 roses on a single stem. On his journey, the father finds the first 2 gifts easily, but ends up in a large garden and finds the roses. Upon taking them, he runs into the hideous beast. He begs for the beast to let him go, for he was only getting the roses for his daughter. The beast lets the fathers go on the condition that he allows the merchant father to give up his daughter as his wife in a few months' time. Time comes, and Belle ends up being taken to the castle as the beast's companion. They don't really talk much, but they do sleep together. First, it is only side by side, then slowly he leaves her a kiss, until she can no longer sleep without him by her side. When she sees that he looks as if he is dead in the courtyard, and she weeps over his lifeless body, he returns to his normal self. His father had a sorceress transform him into a hideous beast when he would not marry someone he did not love, and the only way to break the curse was to have someone love him as an ugly beast. The story, however, does not end here, for Belle wants to bring her sisters and father to come live with her after she marries the beast turned prince. But the sisters, being completely jealous of her, drown her in a bathtub. And in another plot twist, the same sorceress brings Belle back to life and tells her the only way to punish the sisters properly is to turn them into stone columns, and if a man can ever fall in love with them, then they will return back to normal. Over 2 years ago, I made a top 10 about fairy tale dark origins for fun, because it was something that interested me. After that, it took off, pushing me to create more top 10s that I found interesting, and hopefully others did too. It now sits at over 3.5 million views, and is by far my most viewed video across all my channels. And I'm going back to those roots. Here are 10 more fairy tale dark origins. Aladdin. We all know him as a lovable street rat. However, in the original version of the tale, Aladdin is far from lovable. Rather, he is an impetuous, lazy and stupid boy who refuses to make anything of himself, to the point that, at the beginning of the story, his father literally dies of disappointment. Then, when Aladdin finds his genies and achieves some measure of success, he believes himself worthy of the Sultan's daughter. Unfortunately, the princess is already betrothed to another. But this is no worry for Aladdin. No, he chooses to kidnap the princess on the night of her wedding, forces her to spend the night with him, and sends her fiancé off to be tortured by Aladdin's jinn, thereby preventing the princess from consummating her marriage. He does this long enough that her fiancé believes the marriage is cursed and abandons her, at which point Aladdin steals her for himself. Aladdin eventually marries the princess and outbuilds the Sultan's palace to prove his right to rule the throne, until the evil sorcerer decides to have his revenge on Aladdin, steals the genie's lamp, and teleports Aladdin's palace, princess and all, into the desert. Aladdin despairs and nearly commits suicide by jumping into a river, before remembering he has a tiny shin in a ring on his finger. Using the shin, he finds his palace, reaches the princess, and forces her to first seduce the sorcerer and then to murder him. Our hero, everybody. In some versions of The Frog Prince, the prince doesn't return to form after the princess kisses him or he spends a few nights on a pillow. No, instead the princess has to cause him physical harm. In one, she throws him as hard as she possibly can against the wall. In another, she burns him to a crisp, and in another, she literally chops his head off. And that's what breaks the spell. Nothing like being decapitated by your future wife. The story of Rumpelstiltskin is fairly well known. A man brags about his daughter's ability to weave, claiming she's so good that she can turn straw to gold. A king hears about this and forces her to prove her abilities on the penalty of death, and an imp comes to save her. On the third night, he asks her something in return, and she has nothing to offer him. "Worry not, my dear," he says, "just give me your firstborn child." The girl agrees, the room is turned to gold, and the king marries her. Of course, not long after getting married, she has a son, and the imp comes to take the child. She begs for a second chance and tells her that he will only give the child back if she discovers his name. Lo and behold, the girl does discover his name, and when he comes back to collect the child, she tells him that it's Rumpelstiltskin. Infuriated, the little imp stamps his foot so hard he lodges it into the ground, and in his fury, commits suicide by grabbing his left leg and ripping himself in half. Yeah. Undine is a story about a beautiful maiden who lives by the seaside and a knight who falls in love with her. Sounds like your standard fairy tale, right? There's just one problem. The maiden doesn't have a soul. People today might know Undine as a character from the popular video game Undertale, but back in the early 1800s, Undine was one of the creepiest German fairy tales around. The story of Undine starts off with a fisherman, his wife, and their young daughter. One day, the daughter slips from the mother's grasp and drowns in the lake. The fisherman and his wife mourn until later that day, when Undine arrives at their cottage, blonde hair dripping with water. The fisherman decides to raise her as his own, and takes the silent, well-behaved child to be baptized, only for her to start screaming as soon as the ceremony is over. The ceremony causes Undine to grow willful and wild, but despite this, the family grows together happily. One day, a knight comes to the little cottage in the forest and falls in love with Undine, despite the fact that her lack of soul renders her terribly selfish and incapable of empathy. Upon a priest's visit to the cottage, Undine marries the knight. He promises to love her forever, and on her wedding day, Undine is granted a soul by God. Undine and her knight return to the city, only to discover there was another lady close to her knight before this journey, a woman named Bertalda. Despite Bertalda's love for the knight, she and Undine become good friends, at first. But soon Bertalda learns the truth about Undine, that she is a water spirit, given a soul by love, and grows cold to her. And as Bertalda grows cold to her, she convinces the knight to grow suspicious of his wife as well. Undine despairs, as over time she watches the love leave her knight's eyes, and her knight leave her side for Bertalda's. Finally, the day comes that Bertalda, Undine, and her knight are all travelling by the waterside. Bertalda's necklace, given to her by the knight, is stolen by a mischievous water spirit. she and the knight are incensed and blame Undine, who dips her hand into the water and pulls out a different necklace, one much fairer than before. But her husband sees this necklace as yet more proof of her strangeness, and finally shouts, "You are a witch. Go, and trouble us no more." Undine bursts into tears as she disappears beneath the surface of the river, never again to return to land. It does not take long for the knight to forget Undine and instead marry Bertalda, and on that night, a ghostly figure emerges from their castle well and comes upon the knight. He looks upon the figure, who looks remarkably similar to Undine. "I have come for you, and you must die," she says to him. And so he does, for he had broken his promise to her, and he had to pay the price. A beautiful young woman suddenly comes to the attention of a creepy old murderer. A love story for the ages, right? Bluebeard is the tale of an ugly old man with, well, a blue beard. In fact, he is so ugly that none of the girls in the village want to marry him. A husband with a blue beard? Perish the thought. Plus, there's the troubling fact that Bluebeard has married before, but all of his previous wives have gone mysteriously missing. Determined to get his bride, Bluebeard throws her family and friends a lavish party. See, despite being ugly, Bluebeard is incredibly rich. That wealth was all Our Lady needed to rethink the matter. After all, his beard wasn't that blue. In a short time, they were married. Then, one day, Bluebeard must go out of town on a business trip. He gives his wife the keys to all the doors in the house, but orders her never to go to the cellar, promising the most terrible of punishments would await her if she did. Then he left. Of course, she couldn't resist the siren song of what lay beyond the cellar door, so leaving her self-preservation behind, she crept down the cellar and opened the door to a pitch-black room. At first, she couldn't see anything, but then, slowly, her eyes adjusted. There, in the cellar full of congealed blood, lay the rotting and massacred bodies of Bluebeard's previous wives. She was so shocked, she dropped the key, which became covered in blood. But the key was enchanted, and she couldn't rub the blood off. When Bluebeard finally came home and discovers her treachery, he lifts her by the hair and draws his sword, ready to slit her throat, just like every woman who came before her, before getting run clean through by the lady's, previously unmentioned, brothers. In this lesser-known Brothers Grimm tale, The Three Army Surgeons love to boast about how they're the best surgeons in the world everywhere they go. One night, an innkeeper dares them to prove it. They bet him that they can cut off parts of their own body and reattach them the next morning, and the innkeeper agrees. The first surgeon cuts off his hands, the second surgeon scrapes out his eyes, and the third surgeon tears out his own heart. Having done this, all three rub a secret magic salve on their bodies that will enable their organs to be reattached with no trouble the next morning. The heart, eyes, and hands are given to the servant girl for safekeeping. Unfortunately, the servant girl has a lover. While she was meant to keep watch over the organs, her lover visited and distracted her. In this time, the local inn cat stole away the organs and devoured them. Horrified, the servant girl tries to find a way to fix the mistake she made. She takes the heart of a pig she butchered earlier in the day, cuts the hands off a thief's corpse, and tears out the cat's eyes and passes them off as the surgeon's originals. The next morning, the three surgeons reattach their various organs. The innkeeper is incredibly impressed. The three surgeons go on their way. but the surgeon with the pig's heart would follow his friends, for every time he looked the other way, he was off rooting in the dirt as a pig would. The surgeon with the cat's eyes quickly found that he could not truly see, and had to be led around by his friends. The last surgeon stopped at the bar for a rest, then found his hands acting of their own accord and stealing things out of people's pockets. Enraged, they go back to the inn, only to discover their organs are long and forever gone. In return for this horror, they threaten to burn the damned place down. But no matter what, they can't do anything to return to the way they were originally, and are forced to be at the mercy of their new organs for the rest of their lives. A beautiful, pure-hearted boy named Diamond is whisked away by a spirit called the North Wind. Flying high over the housetops, crossing mountains and oceans, experiencing the world. At the back of the North Wind is a Victorian fairy tale that seems full of whimsy and delight, right up until the North Wind starts killing people. You see, although the North Wind presents itself as a beautiful goddess, the North Wind is actually the incarnation of death, and each night that the North Wind whisks Diamond away on those wonderful adventures, he's growing closer to his own death, losing weight, becoming feverish, and falling into comas, blissfully unaware of what is causing this. By the end of the story, Diamond and the North Wind greet each other as friends, and he says goodbye for the last time to his family. On the back of the North Wind, and experiencing all kinds of magical adventures, his life slips away from him, and worst of all, he couldn't be happier about it. Once upon a time, a princess is betrothed to a prince from far away. In the tale of the Goose Girl, the princess and her chambermaid set off to make the journey to a prince's castle. The mother gives her a talking horse and a protective spell, 3 droplets of blood on a handkerchief, before she leaves. During the journey, the chambermaid refuses to serve the princess, a circumstance that causes the drops of her mother's blood to cry out in sorrow with the princess. But one day, she accidentally drops the napkin, and with her only protection gone, the princess is made vulnerable. The chambermaid threatens to kill her and forces the princess to exchange clothes with her. Upon reaching the palace, the chambermaid is mistaken for the princess, and the princess is given a job as a goose girl. With her newfound power, the chambermaid has the talking horse's head chopped off, for fear the horse will give her away. In sorrow, the princess asks the person who does the deed to keep the head and mount it in a gateway nearby, so she might speak to her. So, her beloved horse's decapitated head weeps to her every day she passes by. The goose boy, whom she works with, eventually gets weirded out by this and tells the king he no longer wishes to work with her. Hearing the tale, the king goes to listen to the horse's head himself, and then chases the girl down and demands an explanation. She is too honorable to tell him, so he directs her to an iron stove and asks her to pour her heart out onto it, which she does, crying to a stove. Upon hearing the tale, the king returns her to his son as a princess. But that's not where this story ends. He further tricks the chambermaid by asking her if a servant had tricked his masters by doing something similar, what should the punishment be? The chambermaid cheerfully replies, she should be stripped stark naked and put in a barrel studded with sharp nails and dragged through the streets by 2 horses until she is dead. And so she was. In Chu Renho's novelization of Mulan's story, Mulan returns home from the war after nearly losing her life, only to discover that the father she left to protect is dead, and her mother has already remarried. On top of this, the Khan has requested to have Mulan brought to him, but not to honor her like in the Disney version. No, he wants her for his concubine. With her future stolen from her by a foreign ruler and everything she fought to protect somehow destroyed, Mulan commits suicide. Her final words are, "I am a girl. I have been through war and done enough. I now want to be with my father." In the original version of Pinocchio, our adorable puppet kills the talking cricket by hurling a hammer at it, blames the cricket for being murdered, burns his own feet off on a stovetop while being lazy, leads townspeople to assume that Geppetto has abused him and lands Geppetto in jail, and finally, almost mercifully, is hanged. In fact, this is where the original story of Pinocchio was meant to end. However, the editor who initially published it asked the author for a better ending, leading to the invention of the Blue Fairy. Personally, I like the original ending the best. I hope you enjoyed this week's list, and if you did, leave a like. And if you want to see more similar lists, click here to see the first top 10 I made on Fairy Tale Dark Origins, or here for another classic list on the top 10 nursery rhyme Dark Origins. And if you want to see more in the future, subscribe.
I have an idea.
afraid of no ghosts. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. If you're seeing things running through your head, who can you call?
Ghostbusters!
An invisible man sleeping in your bed. Oh, who you gonna call? I ain't afraid of no ghosts. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Who you gonna call? If you're all alone, pick up the phone and call. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. I hear likes the girls. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Yeah, 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 yeah. Who you gonna call? You have a dose of a freaky ghost, baby. You better call. Let me tell you something. Bustin' makes me feel good. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Don't get caught alone, oh no. When it comes through your door, unless you just want some more, I think you better call. Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Think you better call. Who you gonna call? I can't hear you. Who you gonna call? Louder. Who you gonna call?
Hello there. Have you ever felt like there's a lack of love and kindness in your life?
I'm not interested in caring.
What if I told you there was a place up in the clouds called Kerala? And after we die, the great cloud keeper in the sky pushes a magic broom.
Oh, well, since you put it that way, you!
I love you!
I don't care!
You act like you don't have feelings, but I bet deep down you want to care, don't you? Tell me you want to care. Tell me you want to care.
Oh, yeah, that's it! Oh! 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 Yeah, credit card number? Okay, 438.
Our Care Bear franchise is on the brink of collapse, corrupted by impure creatures that leech off our sunshine land. I'm talking, of course, about the Care Bear cousins. Care Bear cousins suck! I may be love a lot there, but I can hate a lot, too. We can no longer ignore the elephant in the room.
Did I, miss something?
We must send them all to the great cloud keeper in the sky. Bedtime Bear.
Y'all know what time it is? It's bedtime. And by bed, I mean ethnic. And by time, I mean cleansing.
Care-a-lot! 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 Stop!
Wow! Famous character actor Don Cheadle!
You don't have to do this. I've built a hotel where the cousins can be safe.
Yeah, we can keep the corpses in there!
No, that's not what I meant.
I loved you, Swordfish, Mr. Cheadle. Can I have your autograph?
Okay.
I'm Lots of Laughs Bear, and I've gathered you all here today for a special happy celebration!
If it's a special happy celebration, then why am I crapping a load in my drawers?
We did it! We killed all the Care Bear cousins!
Hooray for murder!
Now let us celebrate our genocide! Get your party on!
Woo! Everyone eat some rainbow! That's good rainbow. It's the great cloud keeper in the sky!
Care Bears, I have watched your actions with great displeasure.
But we purified the land of Kerala.
For your dark and terrible deeds, I shall turn Kerala into a dark and terrible place. A hell on earth. I shall turn Kerala into New Jersey.
Hello, I'm New Jersey's Governor John Corzine. I hope you've enjoyed this reenactment of our state's proud history. The Garden State. Come get in on some of this rainbow.
No harm. No harm, no harm, no harm. What they say? Boots, you son of a bitch.
A snowman?
Boots, you son of a what they say? Boots, you son of a bitch.
A snowman? I love snowmen!
Is there anything you don't love, Boots?
Tell her, man! Tell her hair looks like Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men! This is your chance, Boots! Don't puss out! No! You pussy!
Swiper, no swiping! Swiper, no swiping! Swiper, no swiping!
Dora, I'm dying! I have severe altitude sickness.
See this face?
Yes?
This is my not giving a face! Which way should I go? Right, good choice. Huh? No? I'm pretty sure you said this way. Oh, you didn't? Well, maybe in just this one instance I could ignore your advice. Fine. choice for you. Guess which finger? I hope you guess the one that means you.
Dora! Boots!
Diego!
I'm coming too! What was that? Dora!
Where is your safety harness?
Payback's a bitch!
Help!
I'm coming, Diego!
I rescued some condors once. Are you here to return the favor? Why didn't we learn from the crocodile hunter? Dora!
I can't! Hang on!
It's okay, Dora. It's time for me to go, Diego, go. To heaven!
Diego! We did it! I'm an explorer. Food is food. Gotcha something.
You bitch! No reaping! Reaping! No reaping! Reaping!
Dude!
Dora! Dora!
What?
It's almost time for your quinceañera. I need you to run to the store.
Fine. Soda, cookies, or chata. Barf! Help me out. Which beer has the highest alcohol by volume? Good choice.
Dora, you're not old enough to buy that.
No
Dora, please, no. It's wrong.
Now let's complete this transaction.
Hey, stop that kid.
I need your help again. I need everybody to shout. Where my mother map at? Oh, yeah. Map, show me where to find my friend Marcus. He's always holding. Yeah. Map, show me where to find my friend Marcus. He's always holding.
I don't know, Dora. Okay. He's at the park on 12 under the jungle gym.
He said he might have some X too. You can call me Dora the Explorer. Hey, I need your help. Paulo or Maria? No argument here.
Just call me the virginity swiper.
Swiper, no swiping. Swiper, no swiping. You're too late.
Oh, man.
I wish Boots was here to see a little girl become a woman.
Monkeys are cute when they're little, but Boots got big.
Oh, hello, Boots.
Get away, oh my God!
Oh my God, Dora's on the roof.
I bet I can fly. Do you think I can fly? I've never been able to hear you since the show's big lie.
She missed the pool.
But it doesn't have to be. Wait till you try the latest Wii Fit game, Humping Robot.
Wow!
Awesome!
Can I play?
Sure! It's fun for the whole family. Oh! I want to play. Humping Robot for We Fit. Get your copy today.
Repetitive stress disorder may lead to total failure of the pelvis. Stress disorder.
I am shutting down the church.
But it's Christmas!
Well, you should have thought of that when I campaigned as the first atheist mayor.
He's got a point. Can we at least hear the Christmas chimes?
No! In fact, I removed the chimey thingy that makes the chimey noise. So you're screwed.